Okay, so today I was watching the Iced Coffee Hour. This is one of Graham Stephan's podcasts. He's a financial YouTuber, one of the more famous ones, and I'd say one of the more sensible, really popular ones. He's not a hype artist, and he invests in broad index funds, and he's got some good advice, and he's not just a stock pumper or a charlatan out there to make money, as far as I can see. Can't really say the same for some of his friends, but that's not here nor there. Anyways, during his podcast, I got wind of the fact that he's having an upcoming boxing match against some tech guy named Michael Reeves. Not familiar with the guy, but I didn't even know that Graham was getting in a boxing match or did boxing. Seems like he's fairly new to it, and this will be his first match. But it intrigued me because I did a little bit further research, and it struck me as a good kind of psychological case study into the preparation of a fight, the mentality of getting into a fight, like a combat sport performance, just types of things that you should be thinking of, what they did right, what they did wrong, some of their training, though I couldn't find any training of Graham Stephan. But in general, I think it's going to be an interesting evaluation. So let's begin. I think I have it at the right spot. All right.
Back to the podcast.
What are you doing tomorrow, Graham?
Flying to Tampa.
Why are you flying to Tampa?
Why am I got the fight. I'm going to be so happy to get it over with.
Dude, what are your thoughts right now? You're about to fight
He's a little
one
older.
of the largest tech creators, Michael Reeves. Yeah. He's your same height.
So, I mean, it's just his friend, and he's just introducing it, but it shouldn't matter at all that he's a tech creator. I mean, tech skills aren't going to translate over to boxing unless you get to really kind of tertiary concepts, like the fact that he's likely an intelligent guy if he's a tech guy, so maybe that translates to being good at learning other skills, but they're such different realms that, I don't know, it's kind of a stretch.
Same weight.
No, we're not the same weight. So,
What?
Ian sent me a text this morning, said Michael weighed in at 120.
What do you weigh?
What do you weigh?
127.4.
That's good for you, though. That's good for you.
Nice.
I don't know if... 'cause I don't know how it works, because I know there are different weight classes from like 120, 125, 125,
You don't know what
130.
the range is?
I told Ian I'm ranging between...
So, featherweight would be the most likely weight if they do it formally. That's 122 to 126 pounds. It seems like the most fair, because it would be easier for the other guy to make the weight, and Graham doesn't have to lose anything. He just has to show up, not bloated. Sometimes they do open weight bouts, or especially with these types of, first time boxing matches, they might do a catch weight. They might not even announce it. I don't know. It'll almost certainly be an exhibition. It's very hard to get the proper licensing to do a professional fight in that little time, but they are fairly rich, so never underestimate the power of money. So
125, 130. I always have. He's like, don't worry, that'll be fine. And so I don't know if I have to get down to 125 to be in his weight range. I sent it to Ian. He's like, oh, no worries. We'll tell him to drink some more shakes or something like that. So
Drink some more shakes. Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it.
If anything, 'cause since you guys are at the lightweight, it's easier for him to come up probably like a pound or two.
Yeah.
Probably. That's my guess.
Graham, what?
yeah, that's generally correct. I mean, it's a lot easier to you can just drink a glass of water and you weigh a pound or two extra. But the thing is, if they're the same body fat percentage, and Graham weighs more, then to meet him, he's with this little time. I think there's a couple weeks left until this fight, or a week left, because he said he was about to get on a plane, right? You're not going to be able to put on any meaningful lean mass in that amount of time. So it'll either be water weight or adipose tissue, aka fat. And fat mass, as long as you're not super out of shape and you know how to use it, I mean, mass does help you if you can utilize it properly to accelerate your body and put force into your opponent. I mean, Butterbean is a really good example of that. Let's look really quickly at Butterbean knockouts, because he was the king of the. Look, I've already been watching them. It's because I'm a fanboy. He was the king of the 4-rounders, right? And he knew how to swing his body, put his momentum into it, put his weight into it. It wasn't so much like float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, as like punch like a Snorlax. That was a terrible analogy. Yeah, so I mean, you get the fucking picture. All right, let's go back.
What do you think are the chances you win versus him winning?
You know what sucks, man, is I actually had like I don't want to say a deep talk with Macy last night, but I feel like I put myself down so often with this that I've mentally just kind of screwed myself in the fight. I got way too in my head. Once I started watching videos of him boxing, I constantly just like put myself down. I'm not training enough. I'm not good enough. And I worry that's going to come through in the fight in just the way. Because anyone who...
It'll definitely come through in the fight. I mean, this attitude it's deadly. It's toxic. It's dangerous. It is not just suboptimal. It's... I wouldn't even want to see someone fighting that had this attitude going into a fight. You know, like if I was their coach, I'd be pulling them, or at least considering it if I couldn't motivate them at this point. Because it's going to affect everything. You're not going to be training right. You're not going to be coming up with a game plan right. You're going to be too much in the head of the other person. And I mean, you can play these meta games with each other, like with trash talk and whatever, but you have to be good enough at playing those games that you trying to mindfuck him doesn't end up mindfucking you in response. It doesn't look like he's trying to do that, but he's mindfucking himself by thinking about what his opponent is doing better than him, rather than using that as motivation to get better. At least ostensibly, that's what's going on. We'll have to dig deeper.
Succeeds, stuff like that, they never think of that stuff. They're always just like, no, I'm just gonna do it. You
No,
have that
that's
confidence
true.
that
That's not
makes
true.
you do it.
Everyone
I'm
worries a
worried
bit.
at this point. I have not.
But you know what? I
Yeah.
saw a huge spark once you did sparring with somebody you did not know, and even more when you told me you got a bloody nose.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. This is a person that you do not know that you were sparring. I saw...
Yeah, getting hit is a good motivator, especially for men. I mean, rage and fear are good primal motivators. You know, you get hit, and sometimes that's enough to kind of smack you out of your lull and rev you up.
that you kind of had more of an uplift. And I agree. I know what you mean. You put yourself down a little bit. But after that, I think I saw your confidence go up significantly.
I'm more confident after that, but it's easier for me to fight somebody I didn't know because I don't feel as bad. Oh, his name is Brian, by the way, who I fought.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, first of all, it's good that he's been doing some sparring. It's getting his confidence up, but it's psychologically, I think for most people, it's a lot easier to fight someone you don't know than someone you do know. Especially someone, I think he's friends with the guy. I mean, they're at least friendly acquaintances, so that can be tough, especially if you're a kind-hearted person that doesn't want to hurt other people, or is. I mean, most people don't want to hurt other people, but you know, you're super opposed to the idea of inflicting any ill will towards anybody. I mean, those two people, you know, they gain a lot from training boxing, but not everyone needs to be fighting. And from what I see of Graham, he's not someone who should be fighting.
But I don't feel as bad hurting Brian because I just recently met him. I like him, but if I hurt him, let's just say, it's not like I've known him for years, or it's in front of all these people who are fans of Brian. If I do something to Michael Reeves...
I mean, that's the biggest thing, really, is people aren't afraid of losing or getting hurt as much as they're afraid of looking stupid. Especially him. I mean, he's a big, successful guy. His image matters a lot towards his brand. And I mean, the thing is, people care about winning or losing or being competent in the competency hierarchies that they care about. So, like, if you're a finance guy, the way that you would evaluate your own success would probably be money, and using numbers. How big is your net worth, and is it growing, or at least percentages, right, of growth in investing or whatever, right? And say say you're a finance guy and you go out golfing and you don't really care about golfing. Like, if you lose, I mean, it's like, yeah, no one really likes losing. Some people are more competitive than others, but it's not the end of the fucking world. But with fighting, it's not really the same thing. Like, if I'm a professional golfer, yeah, I care about losing in golfing, but maybe not in finance, to say the reverse. But now if we're talking about fighting, everyone cares about losing at fighting, because it's not just something that, even if you never do it, it's not just something that's tertiary. It's a primal. It's a feature of our primal selves. Being able to handle yourself as a man, being able to defend yourself, defend others, and getting beaten, especially publicly. I mean, it's something that can stay with you for a long time and really fuck you up. It's not the same. I mean, kids that get bullied, right? You can feel like you've gotten bullied when you lose a fight, especially in front of people. So it doesn't matter who you are or what you care about being good at.
I don't want to.
I think you would think it's cool. Like,
I just hate hurting anybody.
I told my mom this because she's like, "How do you think he's gonna do?" And I'm like,
See, I believe him. Like, he seems like that kind of person. But the truth is that I've met a lot of nice guys, myself included. I tend to be more on that side of the spectrum. It's a hedge. It's a personal and public hedge for really not wanting to lose yourself. And of course, he doesn't want to hurt someone else, but it's also kind of setting himself up for saying, like, oh yeah, I don't care so much about losing or winning. I don't want to hurt him. And then if he does lose, yeah, I didn't go so hard. It's a way to kind of lie to yourself and lie to others. But it can be self-fulfilling prophecy, because then you don't train as hard, you don't believe in yourself, your confidence is low.
I think I'll do well, but the one thing it's hard for me to wrap my head around is picturing this in my mind. Graham and Michael in the ring. Michael, let's say, just got hit in the face or something, or he kind of slipped, dropped his hand for a second, and he has his eyes, and he's looking at Graham, and he's kind of like dazed maybe, and Graham going and just hitting him. Like, yes. I could never picture
that.
But I
have to do that.
I know. You are such a softie. And
yeah, see, that kind of killer instinct, that finisher mentality, you can practice it, you can find ways to unlock it if it's not natural to you, and sometimes it just happens if you get hit in the face, like I said, but that's probably something like this is definitely a good assessment. I think Graham's gonna have trouble with that.
I mean that in the most positive way.
That's true, you are.
A very positive way, because I admire that, because I'm a softie too.
Yeah.
So
that's what I worry about. But also, so I have to overcome two things: hurting somebody else, and believing that I could do it. And it's just tough.
One thing that Ian said when we had him on the podcast was that what you could do, since it's 5 rounds, is you could struggle through 3, and then on that 4th round, just decide that, hey, I'm going to go in, I'm going to attack, I'm going to be offensive, and I'm going to really get in there and do my best. And then you could completely change it around in 1 round, right? Like, just because...
I mean, he's right that it could change, it could go that way, but you don't want to go into a fight thinking like, oh, I'm going to pussyfoot the first 3 rounds, and then for the last 2, I'm gonna try my best. Especially amateurs. I mean, there's some successful fighters like Floyd Mayweather, Canelo Alvarez. They're really good at this, where they often lose the first few rounds because they're figuring each other out. But these are 12-round fights. Shorter fights favor athleticism a lot more than skill, because there's less time to adapt to your opponent, and people go harder because there's less rounds, so cardio is not as much of a factor, though sometimes that goes the opposite way if they're untrained. But I mean, he looks like he's reasonably in shape. 5 rounds is probably doable. He's quite small. Yeah.
Because the first 3 rounds have been bad for you doesn't mean the fourth one has to be. And I feel like that could apply to the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth round, and just your overall mentality. It's like just because you've thought that for a while doesn't mean you could just switch around. It will be hard.
Maybe.
But
I mean, we'll see.
So what do you do if you win?
You don't want to go in, especially as a new amateur, with that kind of mindset. It's just too much conflicting and conflating variables. You need to focus on just single things, like jab, cross, move, duck. Just being reactionary. Yeah, you don't want to fuck up your game plan, and listen to your coach. And a good coach will just give directions like that, like keep up your hands, single things, not complex, like you need to get to the outside, and after he throws a 1-2, you slip, and then you throw a left uppercut, left hook, like nothing that elaborate, like single things. Keep up your hand, step back, throw the jab, that kind of shit.
What do you do if you lose? What, does it change anything?
I would probably have some regrets if I lost, only because I probably could have pushed myself harder.
Does that mean you would be considering getting in the ring again?
No. Okay. This is a one-off thing.
That's
so
either way, if I win, it would be incredible, but then I feel bad winning at the expense of Michael,
How do you think he feels?
See, this is the problem. There is no win for him, because if he loses, right? But he also knows that he might not have given it his best, which clearly looks like he hasn't. And he also, in a sense, damages the win of his opponent, because he'll probably talk about this publicly, and his opponent, Michael, will think, hey, did I really get the best version of Graham, or did I get a version of Graham that wasn't motivated or took it easy on me? And that's why competition brings out the best into competitors, and that doesn't seem to be in his heart. And of course, if you win and you feel bad, that's not going to help. But the other thing is something that I don't think he's considered, and a lot of people don't consider, is especially when you're being filmed in a public sphere like this for the match. Even if you win, you'll always be wondering, hey, I could have done better. I could have looked better. I could have looked cooler. I could have shown my skills better. I could have done this in style. I could have made this less close of a fight, because he's not, if he follows through with his word, he's not going to do another match again, and I don't think he should, and I don't think he wants to. This is really high stakes, and he's really approaching this with the worst mind frame you could possibly approach a fight. If I was his coach, I would be really, if I was aware of this before it got kind of too late to call off, I would be trying to dissuade him from doing this and figuring out the logistics of backing out of the fight, saving as much face as possible, and maybe just donating to the charity or whatever.
I think Michael is just having fun. I don't think he's thinking this through. I think he's just doing it.
No,
and that's what worries me.
So Michael might be.
Yeah, why can't you do the same, man?
He might be more confident, but he's worried too. No competitor is not worried at all.
Realistically, let's say you hit Michael a little bit too hard, gave him a bloody nose. I feel like afterwards he'd be like, "Dude, you got such a good shot." Like after I met Michael, I feel like that's his.
Yeah, that's a common thing. Common
sentiment
amongst friends that get in fights or spar hard or whatever.
Jaw, he got one like this. Yeah. Dude, and after I was like, "Man, good one." It's but
yeah. It's about respect, and as long as you guys both respect each other, why not?
There's no shame in losing if you've given it your all.
Part of me wants to get what is it called, like hypnosis. And just pay someone to put me under, and then hypnotize me.
Have you been hypnotized before?
No,
I have.
Does that actually work?
I think
kind of.
Yeah.
I've never looked.
See, hypnosis, it does work, and general meditation works in a clinical setting or one-on-one. You can teach this to yourself just by mindfulness practice, somatic mindfulness. The stuff you would have seen on TV, but you could fucking YouTube this and follow a billion guided meditations. But all of it is adaptable to sport performance, and it works quite well. Full on hypnosis, I don't know about that. I'm sure you could find reasons that it would help you, especially if you like uncovered some kind of, let's say, childhood trauma that you could reconsider in your mind in a way that allowed you to understand like why you were self-sabotaging, or why you can't get confident, why you can't turn on your anger, or whatever you need. Like, because it's clear that, and this isn't a negative thing, but Graham Stephan's a very neurotic person. He's a very self-aware person. He's a very emotionally intelligent person, but he gets too much in his own head. So it could help you let these things go, I suppose, to get into an optimal mind frame for training and fighting.
Into the science behind it, but
Right.
I'll be honest. I've looked into specific types of hypnosis when I used to do magic, but that's very different than like.
So the science on it is, I mean, it's a little scant. I have read it though, and like as it relates to sport performance, but it has been measured to show an uptick in performance metrics. Most of these have been done on not sports but academics, like writing IQ tests, performance evaluation, standardized tests, things like that. I think people on average, after going through like regular meditations, maybe got like 3 or 4 IQ points higher or something like that. Don't quote me on it, but
Hypnotherapy or whatever they call it. So I don't know. I'm pretty skeptical on it. But tell me about your experience.
Yeah, my experience with hypnosis. So I went to the state fair. I think I was probably 17 or 18 at the time.
State fair.
Yeah,
I don't know
and
if
they
this
would
is the
they
end
would
of their
have these
boxing
people that would
talk,
come up and
but
perform on this like I don't know this platform. And
let
get an
them
audience
speak
and
for a
everything.
few more minutes.
And then like every night at 8 p.m. they'd have like the hypnotist. And if you go in the audience and you're lucky, they pick you out of the audience to participate in her act, right? So I was one of 40 people or 30 people that she brought up on the stage, and we all sat on these chairs. She started doing this weird, I don't know if she actually did the thing, I don't remember, it was like 6 years ago, but she started like talking in a very quiet and monotone tone, and she was like, all right, you're feeling very sleepy. She gets your heart rate down a lot. And then she walks to everybody that's lined up in these chairs on the stage, and she grabs your arm and then drops it. And that's how she can tell if you are hypnotized or not. Because like some people leave their arm up there and it's like clear, okay, you're not hypnotized.
So, first of all, it sounds like this was like a performance, which means that it could be predetermined. They might have a willing participant that's been pre-instructed, or, I mean, I guess he's talking about himself, and it doesn't seem like that's the case. But there's levels to hypnosis. I mean, rarely, even in clinical settings, is it like someone who's completely under and you're able to compel them to murder or anything like that. It's more like you get put in a relaxed state and you're a little bit more suggestible. That's definitely real and valuable, I would say.
If you leave your arm up there, or if you like bring it down really hard yourself, or if she sees movement. She wants to see like a very relaxed fall of your arm, basically, to see if you're hypnotized. Apparently I was hypnotized because she kept me up on the stage. She sent probably the other half down. And then she instructed me
Sounds
to
like it was
dance
suggestible.
with someone.
I don't know about
And
hypnotized.
I usually would have a little bit of trouble doing that just because it's in front of an audience and maybe I'll get a little nervous or something like that. But it was very easy when I was hypnotized.
She relaxed
They
you.
basically make you not
You're also
care what
compelled
anybody
because you're in front of an
thinks.
audience.
And it's not necessarily control. I feel like I could have...
He said it was 6 years ago. He's quite young, so, he was probably a kid, so any adult is kind of an authority figure, so you're more likely to listen to them. I mean, there's many reasons for
not
this.
obeyed what she had told me to do, but I was in such an easygoing mental state that it was like, why not? Why not do what she told me to do? And that was
There you
my
go.
experience with it. It's like
Suggestible.
she wasn't directly controlling me, but also she wasn't like not controlling me at all because I did what she said.
I heard,
right?
I heard with that kind of stuff, you would never do something that you wouldn't normally be like. If you were against something, that you wouldn't do it, even if you're hypnotized.
There were certain things if she requested me to do them, I could have
like
have
take off
rejected
your
them.
shirt or
Yeah, I could have rejected that. I wouldn't have rejected that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard to get someone to that point. But some people can get to that point. Some therapists are capable of getting to that point. Its main value would be like, if you're having a hard time focusing on, say, like a drill, and your coach or hypnotherapist at your boxing gym, your local boxing gym hypnotherapist is able to relax you and get you in the zone per se. Like, of course, that's going to be helpful, and it'll also be helpful like pre-match, right?
But maybe it works.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But hey,
So, yeah.
yeah, worth looking
So
into.
is that
maybe.
about
I don't
it?
know.
Mm-hmm.
About them
Graham,
talking?
Are you doing okay, man? You just seem really stressed
Yeah,
out.
man, you
Oh,
seem
yeah, no,
you seem a little out of it.
Yeah, he
No,
does
just
look
because we're
really
talking about the boxing.
stressed.
That's
Oh,
all.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Huh?
I know. Also, this recent drop in the stock market has been affecting you a little bit in your portfolio because he told us.
See, if he cares about money, he should have motivated himself by having a side bet. I mean, he could. I don't know, but that way, I mean, he can relate it to something he knows, right? He can consider training as like the modeling you would do in finance would revolve around things like expected value calculations for, you know, dollar cost averaging into X stock, or like those kinds of models. All you have to do is make some kind of primitive mental equivalent that deals with training. Like, okay, if I put in X hours of training, then I'm increasing my chances of winning. However much money they put up, and it doesn't have to be perfectly accurate or something you could like prove, but it's just a way to mentally orient yourself. I think this one's probably exhausted all the resources from this video. Let's go on to let's see how his training is
What
going.
you have to do, because like I
It's from a prior podcast. I didn't see it.
To train, and I imagine that's got to be tough for you, given that you got a lot of
You do have
lot
to
of
stop
things
everything.
do.
Yeah, so
You need
I've
to be
been
all or
doing 3
nothing.
times a week since, I don't know, when did we start? January, February?
Yeah.
January, I think. So
3
3 times a week.
is
About
about 4 times
just
too
recently,
little.
like as of 2 weeks ago, I stepped it up to now 4 times a week.
Awesome.
It's a little
So
better.
Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday.
I mean, that doesn't mean that you're going hard 7 days a week, but you need to be doing 7 days a week something. Like, you'd have like 3 to 4 strength and conditioning sessions per week, and then you taper that to 2, and then maybe 1 to 2 for like the last couple of weeks as you're peaking for the event. And you'd have a skill, at least 1 skill session each day. Like, you're going to be doing some 2-a-days. And, maybe you take 1 day off a week, but like from physical training, but then you're doing things like strategizing, film study, if there's like film of your opponent, visualization, maybe some dynamic stretching, things like that. But yeah, 3 times a week, not enough. And especially if he's just doing like 1 hour or something, I mean, maybe he'll elaborate a bit, but that's just not optimal.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those back-to-back days were tough, and this last week, because I missed a Sunday for Easter, I had to do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and that's Saturday.
Free sponsorship,
Horrible.
Canada Dry
Have
Club
you
Soda.
started sparring?
The trainer. I've not
Right.
sparred a person I don't know, but I've been sparring the trainer,
That's good.
and he just wears the big, thick gloves when he's
That's
doing
good,
this.
yeah.
And
No need to take head
yeah,
trauma.
I think he's kind of training me to not put my hands down, and so anytime I do the wrong
That's the-
move, he just bumps.
That's the
He's
biggest
so
mistake
quick
that amateurs
with the
make
bumps. So he's getting all the bumps
consistently.
But he says that
One of them,
like
anyways.
with his experience, he's going to be better than any opponent that I would ever do, and he could control like what he hits. So yeah, so sometimes I'll throw a hook, and he'll just know I've opened.
Yeah, so what you just said is it speaks to a concept that's really important. See, it's a little counterintuitive, but I would rather spar someone who is better than me than someone who's never sparred before or only had a couple sparring matches. I mean, I would rather spar Mike Tyson than some random guy off the gym, some random guy off the street that I could kick his ass. The reason for that is with Mike Tyson, he can control himself. He knows how to stop a punch from landing or to direct it, to temper the force a little bit, what we would do, like with sparring, if you're sparring with someone, especially someone new, is usually you have kind of a preamble where you establish basic parameters, basic rules, like this is how hard I'm going to go. If I go hard, usually the better person submits to the weaker person and says like, okay, how hard do you want to go, right? Generally speaking, and then as it goes, sometimes it evolves, and sometimes you need to relax it, and de-escalate the situation. But generally speaking, it works smoothly with someone who's competent. But with someone who's new, like they sometimes they just get adrenaline dump, they freak out, they start swinging wildly. I mean, you can get really injured. I don't trust them, right? And yeah, I'd be able to block and duck and get out of their way, but if they hit me, it's not going to be good. And sometimes they're more likely to get into like kind of rage blackouts or whatever. Gym fights, very dangerous, very useless, and counterproductive.
Myself up.
Yeah.
It's so fast.
Yeah.
So, and then he's been training me to, anytime I do this, you gotta drop and roll and do this thing over here, and it's a lot of memorization.
Yeah.
Of just like different things.
It's
I'm gonna do this,
complicated.
you're gonna do that, and if you
Yeah, see, this is the problem with beginners is they don't have the motor engrams established, like the muscle memory as second nature for each move. And when it comes to boxing, it's the complete antithesis of like bodybuilding, where you're like isolating like one muscle group. Like you move as a system, as a chain from foot to head, and vice versa. And it's a lot when you haven't taught yourself that as germane as just like walking would be. Like, you can walk and talk, no problem, right? Can you box as a beginner and talk? It's complicated. You might not even be able to box at all, So focusing on that, looking at all those steps, it'll cause you to freeze up. You're much better that's how you should train. You should learn these as best you can, but keep to the absolute basics, very basic game plan. And really, you got to work on instinct alone, because you'll fuck yourself by thinking about, okay, I need to pivot, and this is the cue for that, and okay, that the cue to pivot is to stomp on the cigarette butt. That's a common way that people teach to new people that can't get the pivoting motion down, like stomp on a cigarette. You know what I'm saying, right? They're much better to just move suboptimally than think of that and not move at all.
see this, I want you to do that. And it's just like, yeah, it's a lot more intricate than I thought.
Yeah. You kind of have to let it go a little bit. Like you maybe overthink things. Because I do that especially when I got started.
Yeah.
And you just need to like feel it and kind of zone out a little bit to make it happen sometimes.
You got it,
rather
buddy.
than thinking like, all right, now I'm about to do a roll. It's like,
Right.
just roll.
Yeah, and there's been a few times I've been hit in the head, and it's just like I've never felt that like sensation before. And there's one that just like he hit me like here, and it just knocked. I've never like had my neck just go back instantly. And there was that quick like second where I was just like, what was going on? Because it just caught me off guard.
Yeah.
And then a few other times like hitting the stomach, and it just like gets the wind out of you. And in that like second.
So getting punched in the face, if you've never been punched in the face, it's not a very intuitive feeling. It's not so much painful, at least with gloves on, but even so, it's not so much painful as it is a shock. It's like someone jumping out from behind a corner and saying "boo" at like your consciousness. You need to mentally reset for a second. You get disoriented, and getting hit in the body. It can cause you to shut down if you get hit in the liver, but mostly it just takes the wind out of you, which makes breathing hard. It disrupts your rhythm. It can, getting hit in the body does hurt, though. It's not the same as the face. Like you acknowledge the pain. So
You feel like a little disoriented, but you can't just like put your hand on, what was that? Because then you're done.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, this is the problem with that, is that you need to take a few shots in training to understand how to not lose focus and come back immediately, or else you're going to get hurt more and lose. But getting hit with shots is counterproductive to your longevity. You will lose the ability to take shots as you take shots. The more concussions and subconcussions you take, the lower your threshold for subsequent concussions is. Good example would be Chuck Liddell. I mean, he had a good chin, and then he got knocked out a couple times, and then people would just touch him and he'd go out. and he took a lot of unnecessary damage. They should not have sanctioned the last, I don't know, 5 fights he was in. It was quite sad, but it's another story. So I think we're done with that video. Let's see some training of Michael Reeves, because I know he has some out. I haven't seen this yet.
Too much motion when you're boxing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you do too much motion,
Simple.
you get tired.
Right.
Good.
You're trying to be
Good
efficient,
advice.
right? Just
So
like an engine.
only move whenever you're trying to do damage.
May as well just take the damage.
Bad advice. Okay, he started out good and then he fucked up. Note, you should be moving a lot, not just when you're delivering damage. You should be getting in and out. You should be moving in every plane possible. So that means front to back, like linearly, laterally, diagonally, vertically, something like ducking, elliptically, like pivoting, pretending this is me pivoting with my feet. I thought it would look better than it did. Okay, you understand what I'm saying, though. So, bad advice. And I think he just said that he wants to take punishment or something. What did he say?
May as well just take the damage, preserve the energy.
Right? Because energy is...
I mean, that's like the Muhammad Ali rope-a-dope, and he got fucking Parkinson's. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, if you want to die for this shit, and there is some level of strategy, letting someone tire you out and maintaining your own energy, but getting hit will tire you out. It disrupts your breathing, and it zaps you in a way that it's hard to say, but it really does fatigue you, not just because of the issues with breathing. So I cannot agree with that.
Neither created nor destroyed. It only is returned as additional...
What did he say?
Neither created nor destroyed. It only
He's giving a definition of energy.
Because energy is neither created nor destroyed. It only is returned as additional kinetic force.
I'll give that definition like a C- in a grade 12 physics class. I mean, he's basically correct, but just kind of a silly, pretentious, and inaccurate way to explain it.
A little bit like rice gum technique.
Yeah, so that's really
So
the best way to do this.
I don't know who this rice gum
If you
guy
want to learn how
is.
to box, you guys need to watch Rice Gum.
Master at that technique. He's a master at the fucking stand.
Yeah.
At the stand. I've been studying. I'm studying it frame by frame. I'm trying to get it between
I don't know what he
frames too,
means.
because that's where the magic happens.
The real technique that comes really well with the Rice Gum technique is the completely even...
Right.
Oh, okay, he means
Because in that way,
someone who's
which
square,
arm am I punching
very
with?
square.
You never know.
Right. You don't know which side. It
don't know.
becomes a 50-50 every
Right.
time.
It's like you're just flipping a coin every single swing. Even he doesn't know that.
That's not accurate. I mean, even if someone's square, I mean, theoretically speaking, there's when you're bladed, like people like the Philly shell, or if you're even just in a regular stance, sure, your lead hand is closer, so you're going to throw that more often, likely. But just because you're in a squared off stance doesn't mean that punches are telegraphed any less. I mean, not inherently, anyways. It depends on the individual, and yeah, I mean, your balance is really disrupted when you're only balanced across like one plane, which is why you need to have 1 foot forward, 1 foot to the side, and like distance in both ways, here and here, to balance yourself. Just like when athletes do the clean and jerk, if you look at their feet, they look like basically like they're in a boxer stance, right? Just helps with balance.
Right. And if you don't know, how can your opponent know?
Also, you present a smaller target to your opponent. Okay, I mean, that looks pretty good. He's pivoting his foot a little bit. It's a little stuck to the floor. He kept his hands up pretty well. Hopefully there's more. There's not much to go by. I'll check that one after. Okay, here's another short clip.
Let's go, Reeves. There you go. Stay nice and tight. May 14th. We
It's
coming,
alright.
baby. We taking it. Let's go, Reeves.
Yeah, I mean, he's got one of these issues that is common with new boxers where he's exaggerating each motion a little too much.
Nice.
He's leaving his arm like way out instead of like coming
Let's
out
work,
of his
let's
body,
work.
like tight. It's hard to
Yes,
show
sir.
you
Head
while I'm
movement,
lying
change
down,
level.
but yeah, it's not bad. Let's see if there's any more. I think I remember I had one more.
Good or bad?
Fighting,
I don't know. It looked good to me.
Wait, was that it?
I think we should get some sparring. Let's.
One, two. Get from that back. 1, 2. Get. 2 here. 3, 2.
That looks pretty good, man. I mean, like,
1, 2, 3, 2.
relative to, I mean, I think he's been boxing for a couple months. Yeah, his footwork is good. He's keeping up his hands. He's got decent power. He's twisting properly. He's moving correctly. Like he's putting the foot that's going in the direction he's traveling first, and he's transferring his weight. Okay. Yeah, his jab looks good. His hook doesn't look good, but hooks are usually the most complicated punch to learn, I would say. It's the least intuitive. Yeah, his hook is going to leave him very open, but I don't know if Graham's going to be able to capitalize on that because just from looking at them, he looks...
It's a snake.
I heard they have the same metrics in terms of height and weight, or mostly, but Graham's body looks a lot stockier than his and looks like he'd have a shorter reach. So I think and this guy looks like he knows how to jab and keep distance a little bit. So it's gonna be very hard for Graham to, say counter with like a left hook or something. If he can get in, I mean, he might be able to swarm him. I haven't seen any footage of Graham training though, so I don't know if he's competent at all.
And so I saw posted on Reddit a little clip of Michael fighting.
Yeah.
I can't really differentiate between like
Good or bad
So
fighting.
I don't
yeah.
know. It looked good to me. And so I saw this. I'm like, oh man, like, am I at that caliber? I don't know. And
Yeah, I mean that's good self-awareness. Like it would be called like I might have already mentioned this. I don't know. Like the Dunning-Kruger effect. Like when you don't know enough to self-evaluate yourself, like you don't know enough to know how much you don't know. But he's clearly aware that he's got that going on with boxing, and it's true. Like it's hard to evaluate proficiency when it's in those middling grounds. You can tell someone who's an abject beginner and someone who's a pro, like the difference. But you get to those middling grounds, it's a little more difficult. But when he says he doesn't know if he's up to that level, I suspect he probably knows he is not. I mean, I'm getting this feeling. Yeah, it's hard to say. He's certainly not very confident.
it psyched me out a little bit to see that.
Yeah, that's normal.
He's so much in his
just
own
use
head.
that. I mean, just know that, like, we don't know if you're, like, you could be awesome. Just as easily as you could be terrible. You know? Once you're put in that situation, you gotta nut up. And
I mean, this is generally true. I've seen and trained fighters that were very meek and timid, and they were all stars at drills, but just needed confidence. And I've seen fighters that were very cocky and sure of themselves that were total trash. So, I mean, that's accurate.
you might.
Yeah, but
Maybe you have a bad first round, and you're like, oh, I can't embarrass myself like this, and you go crazy.
Yeah, it's more about embarrassment. This guy's got it. I don't know who this guy is, but
Yeah,
I want to see that.
yeah. Don't count yourself out.
what was that?
Yeah, don't count yourself out. Yeah.
I want to see that.
I like that. No card in camera. It makes me feel better about my shitty setup that these guys, they're fucking millionaires, and they've got like their own team doing this shit, and they still have fuck ups like this or whatever.
Yeah. Don't count yourself out.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. And the other thing is, I don't want to get hurt. And I know I brought this up to you before. It's just like, because for me, it's like my head, my brain is like the most important thing. And if that gets hindered in any way, it's not worth it. So I know you're going into that with a slight risk.
So I relate to a lot of what Graham's saying. That's why I wanted to do this too, because I really understand where he's coming from psychologically, and it's things that I've had to overcome myself for boxing and just life in general. But I had one of the reasons I left boxing when I was a kid. I trained from ages like 13 to 17, and then I quit. I had a falling out with my coach and other problems, and then experienced some life problems, and didn't end up returning to the sport until about a year and a half ago, when I was 29, 30 now. But what I was going to say is that I had a chronic fear of head trauma, because I value my intellect, and I was also having issues with focusing, some mental health, and I did have actually a concussion unrelated to boxing that really set me back. So that awareness, it's a mind fuck. I mean, it allowed me to adapt a style that was very elusive. I incorporate a lot of movement, and I move quite well for my size. I'm quite small from the division that I'm in. I'm 5'10", and about 230 right now. So I'd be fighting at heavyweight. I will fight at cruiserweight eventually. I need to lose some more weight, which will be no problem for me to make that class. I could probably make 180 even, but maybe not. Not with the amount of muscle that I want to carry that way, because I'm a little bit more stocky. Anyways, what I was just saying is that, like, it's a good awareness to have if you're considering this as a career and you're adapting a style long term to preserve yourself. But for a single fight, I mean, he'll be fine. His opponent isn't strong enough to really hurt him. They're going to be wearing headgear. I'm assuming this is an exhibition match with headgear. Though headgear doesn't help as much as most people think. It helps more with cuts than it does with concussive force, but that's another topic altogether. But I mean, he's going to be fine, especially if he has some history of head injuries. It's very hard to get a long-lasting issue from an amateur fight, especially. I mean, guys went 120 pounds. You cannot produce enough force. You have to get knocked out quite a few times, and he's not going to be cutting weight. And usually, this is counterintuitive, but actually, lower weight classes than heavyweights have more issues with chronic brain trauma and deaths, because they cut weight, so they don't have they cut water weight, so they don't have as much cerebral spinal fluid in their brain cushioning it. But he doesn't have to worry about that. So, I mean, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Physically.
Yeah. And another thing I think you should think about as far as like ROI goes is like the return on like growth as a person, like mental, emotional. Like, this is challenging you in ways that your brain is probably not used to, right?
Right.
Like that's pretty big.
Yeah, new things are great. You need to try things that you're not good at or that don't come naturally to you, and learn to get at least okay at them. That's part of my philosophy, is be at least decent at everything and good at some things and great at some things, but have as little weaknesses as you can. Most people double down on their strengths rather than uplifting their weaknesses. And some guys need to lose. They need to learn to lose to have a certain type of growth, especially physically. I mean, you see like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, they get tapped out so often by girls half their weight and shit like that. Like, you will not last more than a couple months if you don't let your ego reduce. So it's the same with most martial arts, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu seems to be the most effective at that. But yeah, but Graham doesn't strike me as someone that really needs to peg his ego down in that sense, because he's a small guy. He doesn't seem to have any attachment to his physical stature. I'm sure he's dealt with bullying as a kid because he was tiny, and self-image issues and all this stuff that every person deals with, whether they acknowledge it or not. But and he's 30 years old. He's very successful. I don't think it's a big consideration for him. Like, I don't think losing would be a net positive for him, whereas some guys it could be if they allowed it to.
I think that'll help you, like maybe do some good investments in the future. Don't you think?
No, I don't. I don't think so.
Me
I
neither.
think the only thing it'll prove is that, at least I could put myself out of my comfort zone and knock on wood be okay.
Hey, you'll be the most
And,
badass financial guy out there.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a really pat answer, like a rehearsed answer or something he's heard before and he thinks he should say, but I don't think I looked at this one, did
Your
I?
fists and your faces,
yeah,
right?
we're pissed.
So what's going on with that? Why you talk about the beef, right? Because you guys have some serious beef
Yeah,
that you're going to be
dude,
settling
yeah.
with your fists and your faces,
Yeah,
right?
we're pissed.
So what's going on with that?
So he's
Why
laughing,
you
he's
tell-
smiling,
they're
he's kind of
boxing.
excited.
Yeah.
He's just like,
Michael
oh my
and
god.
Graham.
Why did you agree to it?
Why did you agree to it?
Yeah, so Ian iDubbbz asked if I would want to do a charity boxing match. And my first question was, how much do I make from it? And he's, no, it doesn't work like that.
No, charity.
Yeah, it's charity. And I'm like, oh, man. So, like...
See, this goes back to what I said, that he should have bet on the side if he didn't. To motivate himself. I like that he's honest, that he's financially motivated. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you're going out there to entertain people at the expense of your body, spending all this time training, maybe not enough training in his case, but you should get paid. You should receive something, and I think it's very laudable that he's doing it, especially because he clearly doesn't want to. But fuck, man, I mean, he shouldn't be in there. And if I was his coach, I don't think in good conscience I could let him fight. I would pull him out based on everything I've seen. I hope he does it right. I don't know if there's a betting line on this. Like if any bookies are taking bets on this, and if so, what the line is. I make a point to never do sports bets on something that on a fight that I can't evaluate with a lot of footage. Like I don't bet on like the undercard fighters that I don't know very well or anything like that. I need to be able to analyze a lot. But his mindset is so bad that I would consider breaking my rule for this, because I just think the other guy's got such an edge, and he looked okay boxing. Like I can't see what Graham is. He might just be a fucking phenom that's shy and meek, or he might be doing some really well rehearsed and pulled off reverse spiel where he's feigning all this meekness, but he's actually a fucking god in the ring. But I don't know, like, gun to my head, like, pick a winner. Like I pick Michael Reeves, and by I would say a fairly decisive margin. Like you never know, and there's a lot of chaos in these types of things, especially in the amateurs, and really anything can happen. But yeah, it's not looking good for Graham, and I hope he comes out of it all right. I like the guy. Hope he's able to learn from it, and I hope he's able to go out there and give 100%. Like when it comes down to it, because if he loses giving 100%, he will feel better. Even though there is a part of that that's counterintuitive, that it's like, oh, well, if I didn't try it and I lost it, I can kind of pretend in this alternative reality I might have won. But if you're really honest to yourself, that's not as good as being honest and trying hard and giving your best and falling up short. It's happened to me, and the first thing I always wondered was, did I put in 100%? Could I have worked harder? Should I have done this when I did that? And anytime I've been able to objectively say, no, I did do everything. I've been upset that I lost despite giving it my all. I can't lie to myself and say like, oh, I lost because of this reason or that reason, even though everyone tries to be a lawyer for themselves and a prosecutor of others. But yeah, I guess the takeaway is just the psychology of boxing, fighting, approaching boxing, approaching fighting, it's 80-90%. I mean, you can't quantify it, but it's a lot more important than people think. It's a lot more important than, I would say, most sports, like the psychology aspect in boxing. And Graham's a great guy. He's a smart guy, but he's an example of the exact opposite of how you should approach a fight mentally. And since his training doesn't seem too good, that's just based on the fact he's only doing 3 times a week. That's another thing. But yeah, so I guess I'll end it there. And till the next one.